Hello, welcome to another edition of SuperCoach Edge. And yes, it's another week down, and it truly was a week underlined by the massive performance by Bonts, who came out and scored a whopping 181, whilst Laird, meanwhile, broke the tackles record with 20. As I welcome you in, Liam, I see you're going to be doing your best Oliver impersonation this week, holding out an empty bowl asking,
"Please, sir, I want some more."
Giving you a fresh out of trades.
Yes, I am fresh out of trades. I normally would be a little bit concerned about that, but I felt good making those last two trades. Felt very good just moving them on, not having to worry about injuries anymore. Because when you have no trades left, you just don't worry about the injuries because you're like, oh, well.
Yeah.
They happen.
You're fresh out of trades and you're fresh out of responsibility as well.
Exactly. Now, speaking of Oliver.
Ah, yes.
Yes, very different Oliver. This week sees the return of hopefully sees the return of our lovable SuperCoach Pig, otherwise known as Clary.
That'll do, Pig. That'll do. Just give him a little pat on the head. Yeah, we've been feeding the pig and plumping him up in preparation to run amok this week. So I'm sure we're all excited collectively as a SuperCoach brethren that we are. We are excited to see him return to his piggy best. But we'll be rolling with the usual agenda for this week's ep. However, we are joined by another special guest this week in the form of JP, who currently sits in 6th spot overall and is gunning for the ultimate glory. Geez, he's in a spot that I would love to be in, but also wouldn't love to be in because it's too much responsibility and stress.
Yeah, that's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress being at the top end at this stage of the season. But yes, I am. I'm looking forward to that chat actually. So you know what? Let's get into the episode. Let's get there sooner. I feel like.
Let's do it.
Did you ever read that book? There's a monster at the end of this book, I think it's called, and he's like,
"Oh, is that that's not like a choose your own adventure type thing, is it?"
No, it's like a Sesame Street book. It's like a picture book. Anyway, there's just like this part. It's got Grover from Sesame Street. Yeah. And he's like, every time you turn a page, he's like, every time you turn a page, we get closer to the end. And I'm like, that's what I'm doing. Let's get
so you're just skipping all the pages in your case, especially because you got no trades left. You're like, let's just read the last page of the novel, find out what happens.
That's how I felt just when I said that. Let's get to the end. Let's do it quicker so we can chat to good old JP. But let's kick off first with our own individual weeks. Let's have a look at that with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, well, it was a bit of a turn up this week with you turning the tables on me to nab a well-earned victory against me. So, you used both of the trades, and that's the secret tonic. Should have been trading more, but you can't really. But if you had less trades, you would have been trading more.
I was literally using more trades at the start. It didn't work.
You're going to come undone after this week because you won't have any more trades to come at me with. Yeah,
maybe that was my issue originally, was I was using too many trades to try and beat you. Now it's gonna swing my way.
Oh yes, the pendulum swinging your way. Well, it was another close one. We'll get into how close shortly, but I did score 2,372, and surprisingly, I actually scored 2 points less than last week. So I can at least say I'm consistent. But however, unfortunately, overall ranking, I did slide. I'm now ranked 4,077th overall, and I slid almost the exact same number of ranks I made up last week. So completely negated last week. Just shouldn't even exist considering that. So I did slide 287 spots overall, and it's the first time that I've slid in rank since round 10. So looking to arrest that, and hopefully it isn't a trend of things to come, and it was just an off week. But I'm gonna put it down to the fact that, even though you haven't got him, but we have titled the episode the have bonts and the have nots, and I fall into the have nots. I didn't have bont, which would have helped me, but oh well, c'est la vie. It is what it is. So in terms of trades, I did opt to hold my nerve again and held with a week of no trades. But that trigger finger, it's getting so itchy. It's at the stage now where I'm just finding any corner, tables, bloody chairs. I'm just itching it, and it's just not doing the trick, and I need to pull the trigger. But yeah, in terms of the good, Rory Laird probably goes without saying. He was probably the man behind Bont as like the player of the week. The absolute tackling machine. He tackled his way to a glorious 154 as my VC, which I obviously locked up as my El Capitano. But it's just insane to think he has scored 100 plus in 14 of his total 15 games that he's played. He's just absolutely insane. And the bloke has to be, I'm going to call it now, we're 5 rounds out from the end of the year, but I reckon he's going to be the early contender at this stage anyway for SuperCoach Player of the Season, because he would no doubt be the highest scoring player had injury not delayed his start to the season. So he's just going from strength to strength, racking up just bulk tackles as we saw on the weekend as well, which we love, absolutely. So going well there. In terms of the bad, so the big man Witts let me down with just 78 and has struggled since round 14, scoring a ton in only every second game. So this isn't good enough. It's just not good enough at all, especially considering that prior to that, it scored 100 plus in 8 of 9 games. So that consistency is just dissolved away. And I'm going to blame you, Liam, because you brought him in this week, didn't you? I need to blame someone. So I'm just going to point the gun at you.
I haven't had him for the last 5 weeks where he's only scored a ton every second week. So I'm going to say it's more an issue of...
Me?
That? Yeah. When did you bring him in? Round 14?
Actually, it would have been, when did Gorn go down? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, see. Sounds like it's you're the problem.
Yes, maybe it's a me problem. It's very much a me problem. And this next guy who's in the ugly is very much a me problem, but also a you problem because we've both got him.
Problem too. Yeah.
And maybe we are both collectively the problem because the week that we traded him in, he has nosedived completely, and it's reflective in his scores. So that man is Liam Baker, and he delivered me an absolute spud, and not the kind you can turn into a tasty meal via spud bar or the like, as this spud was completely rotten to the core. He scored just 61 points against North of all teams. And I know, like, Richmond as a collective, you shit. Great performance by North, must say, but just terrible, absolutely terrible. You think every other team has scored, just had a day out against North, not Richmond. So with Baker, to make matters worse, he's now dropped 32.7K on the weekend and been in slow decline with a 90, 70 and 61 after his 4 previous 5 games to that were tons. So, and sorry, even worse than that is the fact that he's an ultra pod in just 4% of teams. So his poor scores hit even harder. Fair to say this pod hasn't paid off. What about you?
Not at all.
How'd you go?
Yeah, travelled a little bit better this week than you did. Still had some of the issues that you had. But I did manage a score of 2,386, which was a nice return to form, especially when I had to field Hobbs in place of Oliver. And boy, did that look shaky when Hobbs went down with a shoulder injury. But no, the boy's a pig of the future.
We both had him.
Clary Oliver. So yes. So I mean, it didn't make a difference in our head-to-heads, but yeah, it was. I remember seeing it, and I mean, I was obviously like, oh no, he's in my football side, but also he's in my SuperCoach side, and didn't know which one would hurt more. And then it was actually quite funny. So I was watching the, sorry, just a little bit of a side story here. I was watching the scores during the game, SuperCoach scores as well, while I was at the game. And I was up against Emp in one of our leagues.
Yep.
And I was just behind him, and then I got just ahead of him. And it was in the last game. It was the last 5 minutes of the Essendon game. And Hobbs kicked it inside 50 to, I can't remember
assist, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was a goal assist. I can't remember who he kicked it to. It might have been Stringer. And then ran straight off the field. And I was like, oh, that's not what I need. I need him to be on, because I was only a couple of points ahead at that stage.
And Witts was off as well. I noticed that.
Yeah, Witts was off. It was chaos.
Calamity.
It was chaos for my son. But it's okay. I then realized that I was actually just ahead, and those scores hadn't counted yet. So it was okay.
Oh.
So I was like, there's scores coming. There's points coming. And I don't think Emp had any players in that game that were different to mine. Like I had, he didn't have any players that could score extra points for him, I guess. That's what my point was. Yep. But anyway, let's just, that was a good feeling. It was a good feeling. So thank you very much, Hobbs. get a bit of a honorable mention before we get into it.
He saved me as well with my my cash lead that you're in as well.
Yeah.
And I ended up, it was literally to and fro. And my opponent ended up having, I think it was Merritt, Ridley, and Torquay as captain. And I had Hobbs and Witts. And thankfully, Hobbs, when he went off, I was like, I'm done for. Came back on like an absolute champ, saved me because he actually performed better than Witts. Like, performance-wise, Witts is just an absolute plotter. Could have lost me the match, but I ended up winning by, I think it was about 6 points in the end, and has all but secured me a spot in my finals. So thank God for Hobbsy.
Thank God for that. Well, onto my overall ranking. I did manage to head in the right direction this week, up 785 spots to sit 16,368th overall. In terms of trades, yes, as you heard at the top of the episode, I decided to use both of my last 2 trades this week. I axed Nank. I know he played. I just didn't trust it. Just didn't trust it. And then he decided to, knee a player in the head or whatever. Just decide to knee a player. Like
check out my PCL
too
injury.
much risk. Yeah, too much risk. Was it the same knee? Was it the same knee? Was it a different knee? Was it?
Yeah, maybe it's testing out the strength of it just by kneeing someone in the head.
Anyway, so I moved him on. Just the risk was too high, I think. Obviously, I also had Parrish, so I moved him on as well. So with my final 2 trades, I brought in Jared Witts and Jordan Dawson into the mid. Jordan Dawson played in the midfield. Jared Witts obviously as a ruckman. So that's me over. That's me. I'm gonna kick back. I've got my beers ready. Just gonna
knock off drinks.
Let the game take over. Just gonna sit back and watch. Anyway, onto my good. I can't go any further than Rory Laird. What's not to love when you've got the VC on a man who scores 154, which was the highest score in my side for the round, and he's laid 20 tackles in a game. Just Rory Laird, take a bow. Thank you very much. On to the bad. I've gone the same way. Witsy as well. Witsy on debut for my side didn't give me what I was hoping for with just a 78, but I am going to give him a bit of a reprieve as he was double teamed in the ruck in that game with Gold Coast not playing another recognised ruckman by Andy Phillips and the man, the myth, the legend, Sammy Draper.
Eddie Betts style. Eddie Betts playing ruck now.
Just love that we're living in Sammy Draper's world. We're just living in it. But anyway, on to the ugly. For the ugly, I've gone with the Halicryptor.
Yep, fair.
I know Baker, but I wanted to go a bit differently. I'm well and truly tired of his scoring. Look, I didn't catch the game, but I was watching the scores. And he just seems to be hot out of the blocks most weeks. Like he's looks like he's on track for a good score after quarter time, even half time. And then he just seems to pull up a bit and struggle to score, like to finish the match out. Now, I don't know, you're the Carlton man, you're the resident Carlton man, but I...
Unfortunately.
I don't know. What is it? Does he look injured? Is he just cooked? Is it just the fact that, it's a long season and he's just tiring? Or what do you have any insight, I guess, there?
We'll ask JP the same thing when we have a chat to him because he's a Carlton man as well. But yeah, I've said it previous weeks, like he's not kicking. I mean, he kicked a goal on the weekend, but he's not kicking the same number of goals because, goals are few and far between. He kicked one on the weekend, all good, but he's kicking, field kicking's shit. His disposal choice is terrible. He's rushing. He's trying to do too much, getting caught in tackles as opposed to taking first options, handballing off to someone else. And he's handballing more as well. And on the weekend, he only had 17 disposals, which is his lowest for a little while, I think. So he's still playing the same number of minutes. He played 82% of game time, which makes me think, okay, he's not being managed for injury or anything. But considering he's handballing so much compared to the start of the year, makes me think, maybe there is a niggle there, whether it's to do with his leg or to do with his back, which he had issues with in seasons gone by. But I don't know. It's so hard to work out what the issue is. But he's not the same. Not the same
tough
bloke.
Question.
Yeah, but no, he's not the same bloke. That's the thing. And we'll ask JP as well as to what his thoughts are. Like, do you persist with him? Do you get rid of him as like a luxury trade? But I think at this stage, Short's been in the gun over the past few weeks for me and probably for both of us as well. But I think Cripps is now top of the list. He's like a massive liability because there's I can't see any signs for him turning around his form and recapturing what he was showing earlier in the season. I think even they asked Voss about it in the presser last week, I think it was, about Cripps. Generally just how he was going, and he kind of defended it and said, he's in good form. He's doing as well as he can with the support that he has and all that other shit, just rolling out the typical stereotypical stuff. But yeah, short answer, I have no idea. And short answer long-term is I can't see him turning it around, unfortunately.
Yeah, fair call. And I guess looking at it quickly, he's in 57% of teams, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
If you do have him, because most people are probably contending with the same issue. But equally, it does make sense that, you kind of want to get rid of him. If
could
you can.
Be a little bit of an antipod. Like, you could potentially trade him out, whilst the majority of the competition, or at least half the competition, have him to make up ground on those people that stick by him. And if he continues punching out shit scores, and you bring in like a Bont or a Steele or someone who can average, 20, 30 points more at this stage anyway, it looks like a week, you're going to make up some fair ground. So yeah, one to think about.
Fair call. But let's move on. Let's have a look at the quick look at a head-to-head. Damon, you've got the 12 wins, 6 losses, and a point differential of plus 803. And I have the 6 wins, the 12 losses, and am down by 803 points.
Well, it's official, Liam. It's official now. With 5 weeks to go, I've secured our head-to-head victory, but you can tell I'm flat in announcing this because there's no fanfare, no no streamers, no nothing, because it's a cheap victory for me after the SuperCoach gods intervened and ruined it with injuries to your team. So they've taken the sting out of the head-to-head competition for season 2022. So it's just poor. They're in the ugly, I think, at this stage overall for the season. In your ugly, no doubt, but by extension, my ugly overall.
I feel like it's, the saddest part is I can't even hold on to I can still mathematically make finals. Like, it's still mathematically possible for me to win this.
Yeah. Although having said that though, having said that though, like, you did chip away at the point differential this week. Only by 14 points, but who knows? You can still come back. Hold on to the hope.
All right, hang on. 14 points times by
14. Yep. Over 5 weeks.
Divided by 14. I'm gonna have 57 weeks to make it back.
Yeah, and you need to score 160 points extra than me a week over the next 5 weeks. So good luck with that.
The 14 points is not gonna help.
Classic.
Let's move on. Let's get into the talking points that came out of the weekend. Let's have a quick look at them in the week that was.
In the week that was, we keep you up to date on the key talking points of the round.
Yes, and the biggest talking points, apart from obviously the loss of Piggy Oliver going into the round, of course, was the poor form of Maxi Gawn in his second game back from injury, who spent a fair bit of time up forward, but did generally struggle as well. Meanwhile, Toby Mankervis made a miraculous recovery to play.
I think he knew that you were using one of your 2 trades remaining on him, and he's like, you know what?
But if I didn't trade him, he would have been like the latest of outs. Like, he was training, warming up and then didn't play. Anyway, whatever.
I think it's just a cruel joke from the SuperCoach gods just pulling the strings. Like, hey, let's finish off the season in style for Liam.
Yeah.
Bastards.
Well, thanks, Toby. But anyway, whilst popular primo Josh Kelly sustained a concussion and will obviously, unfortunately, miss this coming week against your boys in the Blues.
Yes, and I guess aside from the injury front, the form of the inevitable, going to call it now, probably no secrets about it. The inevitable Rising Star winner in Nick Dacos continues to get better and better after he amassed 40 disposals, 5 tackles and 3 goals for a return of 163 points. This bloke is like, you know how much I rant and rave about Walshy. but like he is just completely on another level. Like, can you believe he is now priced at 555.2K and had a total price rise of 361.4 since debut? Like, he's already established himself as a SuperCoach Primo just 14 games into his career. It's just absolutely insane.
Absolutely nuts. And I guess continuing on the rookie front, we've got two that we can talk about. Noah Cumberland from the Tigers scoring 101 in his second game. Very nice. Yeah. Whilst mid-season rookie recruit Jai Cully finally debuted and scored 90 for the Eagles and was just absolutely a tackling machine. Just
love that.
That's what you love. That's what you love from your rookies, especially. And that's probably a decent enough segue. Let's jump into The Price is Right.
My money don't jiggle jiggle. It folds. I like to see you wiggle wiggle. For sure. And make you want to dribble. You know, riding in my Fiat. You really have to see it. 6 feet.
In The Price is Right, we run through the top buy, sell, hold, and wait options for this round of SuperCoach. We'll chat about the pros, the cons, and who you should be considering trading in or out of your side this week. And let's start off with the sell.
Yes, well, just with the sell, we're sort of mixing it up. We're sort of veering to that last week, just with regards to the discussion on the number of trades. You know, one could consider at this time of the year, and you know, as we know, that trades are dwindling, and so too are options, because a lot of people have already completed their sides. So, and thankfully, on the weekend, no real massive long-term injuries, thankfully, to fix. Attention really only turns to luxury trades at this stage of the year. So, you know, we'll probably roll through the main suspects, we'll call them, for the sell. So probably should do a little bit of a side note here. However, we do talk about these luxury trades in the context that it really does come down to your own specific situations and how many trades you've got left, how much cash you've got left in the bank. So don't be making these willy-nilly if it means that you're going to be in a compromising position with no real cover on the bench. Sort of similar to your position, Liam, but obviously your position was a byproduct of the gods being dickheads. So we'll just leave it
and I do agree. And I mean, also the other thing to keep in mind, if you're in a cash league, this week is generally the last week of before finals. I don't think it would ever not be. I can't think.
No. Don't think you can start early.
If you need to, make finals, like sometimes making a trade is worth the risk.
Yeah, true.
Because it could be a case of if you don't make the trade, do you not make finals? And then what's the point? There's no point, especially if you're playing for cash. So I think that's one thing that I always like to factor in. Is there's no point holding off on the the hope that you're only going to make finals.
There could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, in those situations, absolutely keep them in mind. So the main sell suspects, I think we'll keep it quite short here. Could be lengthy, but we've spoken about them in the past. Crisp, short, but the main two, I think at this stage, one we spoke of earlier in the episode, and we have for a number of weeks now. Patrick Cripps, again, failed to fire on the weekend with an 84. And is one that could be worthy of a luxury trade, goes without saying. And the next one is someone we spoke of last week in Tom Green from the Giants. And yes, another luxury trade because he pulled in a stinker that was even stinkier than the previous week, where I think he scored 51. This week, or the weekend just gone, scored a 49. So he's lost 38K on the weekend, and he's projected to lose another 43K this week to sit actually below his start price at $3.99, which is quite surprising to see. Considering his start to the year is absolutely scintillating and on fire, but he has fallen away. And we did warn last week with the inclusion of Hopper, and then Taranto obviously being in the middle, having to share some time and minutes, might have been a bit of a flow-on negative effect there. So I think nail in the coffin there with Tom Green. If you do have him, I would prioritise him ahead of Paddy Cripps at this stage. If you don't have him, Paddy Cripps is probably first and foremost the issue to rectify. But yeah, as we said, comes down to your specific situations. But let's move on to the buy.
Yes, for the buys, we have given attention here turning more to those luxury trades, as we just mentioned. So we'll list the top options we've identified across each position, just assuming that you haven't got them, obviously, but also assuming that you've got the luxury trades you need to be making. So again, target these guys if you don't have them and you've got the option of a luxury trade. You don't need to just get these guys in for the sake of getting them in, if that makes sense. We'll run through each line, and we will also throw in a bit of a pot option as well. So we'll kick off in defence, and surely it should become as no surprise. We have James Sicily here, defender eligible, 585.7k with an average of 114.7 and a break even of 136. He has all but bottomed out after being priced as high as 635.3. And while you could potentially afford to wait another week with that break even of 136, it is the fact that he faces North Melbourne that could prompt you to pull the trigger a little bit early. He is the number 1 ranked defender. So if you don't have him for some reason, get him in, prioritize him, dump short, get Sicily. You'll be happy.
He's a must-have. Obviously, speaks for itself. Number 1 ranked defender. Going to keep scoring out of his absolute anus. So, good man to have. Another good man to have, and it is turning our attention to the midfield. And we've spoken of him ad nauseum here. Probably you can guess who we're talking about. Jack Steele, midfielder, 562.2k, averaging a 111.5 with a break-even of 87. And he's now scored 4 consecutive tons since returning from injury, and is as sound and consistent a midfield option as they come. So should be top of the list for those needing a midfielder with a 3-game average of 116.3. So he has the points in the bank, I guess. He's done it all season, not just on return from injury. He's really picked up from where he left off. And he's a really good price at 562.2k. So speak about all the time. He's got a high floor, high ceiling, consistent, which is really important for head-to-head leagues. So if you are prioritising head-to-head leagues at this stage of the year, look at him. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to the ruck, we've got Rowan Marshall, and he obviously is a ruck forward, so he could also move into your forward line as well if you need someone more as a forward. But he's probably the best ruck you can find at this stage. I don't want to say the best ruck, but he's probably a good pick for the rucks at this stage at his price point, and just sort of with the potential that he's got, which we'll touch on in a sec. He is averaging 87.4, priced at 460.6 with a break-even of 107. Now, it may surprise some to hear us actually mention Marshall as an option here, especially in the ruck, but he now comes into calculations off the back of an unfortunate Paddy Ryder injury. He's obviously gone down and he's been ruled out for the remainder of the season. And I don't know, I worry that that's maybe the last we see of Paddy Ryder, just at his age and sort of his injury history as well. But in the 5 games that Marshall has solo rucked in 2022, he's averaged 112.8 with scores of 124, 67, 125, 92 and 156. But when he does share the ruck with Ryder, he averages just 75.82. So not, there's a big disparity there.
That's a 37-point difference on average.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so he would obviously be a cheaper option for those that are strapped for cash if you're just needing to, do a bit of a sideways trade. Or if you're looking for some ruck cover long-term, if you have an R3 ruck forward DPP swing like Teakle or just, I don't know who else there is now that's available. But just if you have an R3 that is that ruck forward switch, then you can bring him in as a forward and you've got some decent cover for the ruck line as well.
Very nice. He is coming to calculations for myself, and off the back of that, he's in 6% of teams, so he is a relative pod as well. So which is always good. Comes with the DPP there as a forward ruck, so absolutely like that prospect there. Moving on to the forward line, and it's another DPP eligible player, and it is Marcus Bontempelli as a midfield forward. He's priced at 615.4k, averaging 116.6 with a break-even of 78. And the Bont came through with the goods on the weekend with 181, which saw his price rise 18.4k. And he presents as great value considering he has been a picture of consistency with tons in 14 out of 16 games. So it's really wild to think he's still valued at 36.6k below his actual starting price. So it probably speaks more to the fact that his ceiling hasn't been as big as what it has been compared to previous years, but his floor's been really, really high.
It's funny you say that after he scores 181.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So it's probably it is his highest score of the year. He scored a few 130s, 120s, but not to the frequency that he had of last year, for example. So, he still goes without saying, provides that security there with the high floor. And SuperCoach Gold projects him to potentially rise 40 to 50k over the next couple of weeks. but they do have him projected to score. I think it's about a 130, 120 odd across both of those weeks. So if he does, this could be the last chance to jump on him before he skyrockets out of reach. So, he's a primo. I think he's now rated off the back of that score anyway, the number one ranked forward on overall points. So fair effort by the Bond, because I think he's missed a game or two here or there. So done very well.
Very nice. Very good. Very good. I like that. If I had some trades, would definitely be considering bringing him in. Now we're going to pod option for you. This is with the pod option. We're just going to look at a player that's sort of in a relatively small percentage of teams. This one's in just 1.6%. And it'll be across any line. So he is a midfielder, and it is Chad Warner. He has comes in at a price of 544.6k, averaging 99.1 with a break even of 62. Now we always want to just give you some pod options, and it's obviously for those that do like to take that risk. And Chad Warner presents, if I'm honest, is a bit of an interesting option, I want to say, in the midfield. Probably not a great option, but just an interesting one. It's a risky option. He is in just 1.6% of teams, and he could be one to shake up a few league head-to-heads and rise up the ranks for those looking for something a little bit different. In his last 3 games, he's had scores of 155, 108, and 148 against the Dons, the Dogs, and the Dockers. And he's a risk. He is a risk. The rest of his scoring for the season has been a bit up and down. He's really found that consistency in the last couple of weeks, but he is in some very, very good form. And recent form is, what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, again, risky option, but not a bad option maybe if you didn't have the cash to be able to splash if you had Crips. It's a risky option, but I don't know, one you could consider.
Yeah, just having a quick look at his CBA. So they have actually risen over the past few weeks, 65 from round 14, 65%, dropped to 45, then up to 77 season high, 69, and then 77% again on the weekend. So it looks as though compared to the start of the year anyway, where he was averaging around about 58 to 45%, he's actually jumped up and he's being given more responsibility now. So you actually mentioned this to me, Liam, over the weekend, I think it was, and you said he's one to watch. It might have even been last week, I think. He's one to watch for next year because it looks as though he's being given more responsibility, and he's replying in turn to that with some good form. So, yeah, it would be a super pod to try and get a hold of and put in your team 2%. And let's move now onto the bubble, really. And there's a couple of options here. And the first is Noah Cumberland, who is a midfielder forward priced at 123.9k, averaging an 81.5 with a break-even of -91. And the young Tiger has been super impressive in his first 2 games, returning scores of 62 and 101. And he's a great downgrade bench cover option also, and I guess a cash cow if you still have enough excess trades to use him as such longer term, which is probably ghost ship teams, 2% of the competition. But yeah, I think he's kind of been the replacement for a Tom Lynch type character. So interesting. Don't know if it's going to. You'd probably think it'd be impactful when Lynch returns, but I don't know. He's an option nonetheless.
Dimmer, I think, came out today and said that Lynch and Martin are both not going to return this week.
Ah, very good.
From what I remember. So don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure those two will miss another week at least.
Yep, that's quoted by Lee.
Please don't. Please don't. Please. So should get at least another week out of him. Not a bad downgrade option. I mean, it's sort of that awkward timing. It depends what you're downgrading him for. Or who you're downgrading him from, and what the purpose is. So yeah, it's a tough one on the bubble, but definitely not a bad option. And another option is Josh Carmichael from the Pies, mid forward eligible, 102.4k, averaging just 55.0 on the dot, with a break even of -50, and he has scored well enough considering his bargain basement price. Since being drafted as a mid-season rookie at the Pies, scoring the 54 and the 56. And his score on the weekend could have been twice as good had he not butchered the ball to the extent that he did, which featured 3 free kicks against, 10 clangers, and just 25% disposal efficiency from 8 tackles and 24 disposals, all of which were kicks, which is nice to see.
What was he doing? Was he like just
25% disposal efficiency? So he is...
That's six of his disposals actually hit the target.
Wild.
Yep, crazy.
The foundation is obviously there for good scores in the future, but he'll need to fix his disposal quick, smart, and with Jai Cully on the cusp as well. There's probably a better option for that mid-forward role if you need to. And I'd almost go Cully ahead of him because at the very worst, if he doesn't play, he's still got the DPP. I know Carmichael does as well, but Cully looks as though he's got a better... I mean, he's played one game, so it's a small sample size, but he looks like he's got a decent ability to score as well.
Yeah, and just to back that up as well, just in terms of Cully, Adam Simpson said in his presser, it looks like he's up for the fight. He had 12 tackles and 5 to 6 clearances. You'd take that for a first gamer. He'll remember that forever. So, he's in the good books of Adam Simpson.
Good, yeah.
What's happening now?
I don't know. What's happening, David?
Now, you said now. That rings a bell because I have like a voice in my head that's echoing now, and for good reason because it is.
I'm the captain
now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
But yeah, that was great. Now we've scrounged in I'm the captain now. We scrounged through the data and we find you the best options for your VC and C this weekend based off some historical form. And first up, on Friday night, 7:50 against Richmond, we have Andy Brayshaw. He's averaged 87.75 over his last 4 against the Tigers with scores of 190. So the rest of the scores aren't going to be great if he's averaging 87.75, 63, 36, and 62. Now, that's every game he's ever played against the Tigers, so he's only played 4. He has had a downer on the weekend, but has scored 130 plus in 3 of his last 5 games. So Friday night could be a good VC option, especially considering some of the other options you could have for your C later in the weekend.
I like it. Good old Andy. He's in good form. The weekend wasn't totally up to scratch, but we'll let him off the leash there. Not too bad. But moving on to another option, and it is the next game against North and Hawthorn. It is Sicily. They play on Saturday at 1:45 p.m, averaging a 97.5 in his last 4 games against the Roos with scores of 105, 114, 95, and 76. So, as we spoke of as a buy candidate, really, he is just a picture of consistency, number 1 ranked defender, and against North, why not? There's no reason for him not to do well. So unless the ball just isn't in defence for Hawthorn, which could happen, but. Given the Roos have been competitive over the past few weeks and obviously coming off the back of a win as well, the ball should be down there enough for Sicily to intercept like crazy and put up some saucy scores.
Hopefully. That's what I hope for. Moving on to the man, I want to say the second man for the moment this round. The other one's coming up. It is Rory Laird against Sydney. Saturday at 1:45 p.m. He has averaged 102 in his last 4 games against the Swans with scores of 121, 88, 89, and 110. And he is in a rich run of form with a 3-round average of 136.3 and a 5-round average of 135.8. But the Swannies give away the 3rd least points to opposition inside mids. So that's a concern, especially when you look at the weekend. Brayshaw, who played against the Swans, he had a downer.
Yeah, that's true.
The week before, McRae, he only scored the 100 against the Swannies. Yeah, just something to consider. Just something to consider.
Yeah, it's something that I didn't consider, and now that you've said that, I am considering it.
I think if I was, I wouldn't have an issue with the VC on him because the risk is mitigated, I guess. Being able to play someone else, but oof.
But it is Lairdy, and he's only had 1 score below 100, which was his return game. So at the very least, and because he's got that high floor as well, like you say, I mean, he's as a VC, you can probably afford to take the risk, which I'll probably do anyway. I think a lot of people will. But let's move on to the next option, and it is Lockie Neal, who faces Gold Coast on Saturday at 7:10 p.m. And he's averaged 116.25 in his last 4 games against the Suns, with scores of 108, 64, 151, and 142. So, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag there, but shown enough in those previous encounters that he's pumping out some captaincy-worthy scores there. So, yeah, consider him. But would they put a tag on him? Could Took Miller become like a tagger just to get under his skin? Nah, you think they wouldn't?
Please.
You think they wouldn't tag him? But yeah, he wasn't tagged on the weekend either, Neil, from memory. So
no, he wasn't. Again, especially by GWS as well, which was interesting.
Yeah,
they've got a couple of decent taggers.
Yeah, because I thought I was going to call him Leon Cameron, but I thought McVeigh came out and said they were going to put some time into him with like a run with player. And I think he identified Ash, but didn't happen. So playing funny buggers. I think coaches just have
games.
Short-term memories. Not good. Not good for footy.
Yeah. No, not at all. In the same game, we have Took Miller. He has averaged 97 his last 4 against the Lions, with scores of 99, which came earlier in the year, 115, 80, and 94. So again, bit of a mixed bag there. It's hard. It's hard. Yep. He didn't have a great one on the weekend, scored just the 110. He did get a little bit of time put into him.
His score was mostly made up in junk time, or pretty much the last quarter when sort of the Suns are out of the game, never going to win it, and your mob would just probably took the foot off the pedal a little bit and just I don't think Caldwell was putting much of a hard tag at that stage, and Took was just running around willy-nilly.
Yeah, most certainly.
Yep. But another option is Marcus Bontempelli, who plays Melbourne on Saturday at 7:25 p.m. and he's averaged 125.25 in his last 4 games against the D's. So he's done quite well with scores of 105, 125, 136 and 135. And he is, of course, coming off the back of a big 181 against the Saints. So could he be in for another big score with both of those factors, I guess, combined? So doing well.
Juicy. Now, we've got Jack McRae as another option, who, interesting, but averaged 141.25 in his last 4 against the D's, with scores of 133, 145, 146, and 141. He wasn't in bad form on the weekend, scored 128.
No, he's good. Yep.
I
doubted him.
Is he coming back? Is he going to give us a 141?
Yeah. Well, he's consistent because I think he's scored 100s in every single game up until round 8. So at least he's been consistent. But it's those high captaincy worthy scores that have been few and far between.
If he was your VC, I'd like him as a VC, like Laird.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer him if I could have him as the VC.
Yep. No, I totally agree there. Moving on to another guy in that same game, and it is track, Christian Petrarca. He's averaged 110.5 in his last 4 games against the Dogs with scores of 163, 105, 92 and 82. Does come off the back of that 141 that he scored on the weekend. So, I mean, his history against the Dogs doesn't look that favourable apart from that most recent game, I think it was, which is the 163. So, I mean, you can't ignore him off the back of the early in the year, yeah. So you can't ignore that. Recent form happened this year, and he scored on the weekend. So combines for potentially another good score. It'll be interesting. It might be a high-scoring shootout, I think, or at least in SuperCoach terms, like all the big guns, McRae, Bont, Petrarca, Piggy Oliver. There's a few options there, Dunkley even. So I can't see either side putting time or effort into like trying to negate or shut down a player. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of head-to-heads in that game, which will be interesting to watch. Moving on to the next game of the round, it's your boy, Sammy Welsh. Against GWS, Sunday at 1:10. Now, he's got an average of 109.75 in his last 4 against the Giants, and that scores of 149, 71, 87, and 132. Now, that 149 came earlier in the year. So again, another one that just based off very recent historical form. could be in for a big one. Yeah, just gonna leave it there.
Yep, don't mind it.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Don't mind it, of course, obviously. I mean, he's my boy. But another scintillating youngster is Nick Dacos. So he's a bit of a left field one, but can't ignore him. He is a primo of the future and of current times, given current form. Faces your mob on the weekend on Sunday at 3:10, and he scored 71 in his first game against the Dons on Anzac Day. But he has a 3-round average of 135 and a 5-round average of 122 with scores of 143 against Gold Coast, 99 against North, 163 against Adelaide. So he's a very, very big smoky option. I don't think anyone will really be thinking about him as a captaincy option, but you can't ignore him. 40 disposals, 3 goals on the weekend. Just do it. Like if you need a leg up against your opponent and you haven't put a captaincy on anyone, and they haven't got Dacos, that could set you apart. Risk,
it's a nice risk, I think, in that case. If you were out down by a fair bit, it's just a nice risk to take. And that's why I think I've got him here in this list. It's just that it's a risk that you could take if you were, because he plays later on that Sunday. So to keep up your sleeve if you need something. Moving on in that same game, we got Zach Merritt. He's averaged 111.5 in his last 4 against the Pies, with scores of 123 from earlier in the year, 116, 120, and 87. So nothing really to write home about, but he has a 3-round average of 141 with scores of 140, 147, and 136 in his last 3 games. And Collingwood give away the most points to inside midfielders.
Oh, wow.
It's all coming up Merritt, if you ask me.
Yeah, very much so. Especially without Parrish there. Like he is taking advantage of that, isn't he? Just all the points to 0.
Yeah.
Jeez.
All the points.
Yeah,
Greedy little.
greedy little man.
I don't know.
Last option that we've got listed here before we move on to the honourable mentions is Jack Steele faces West Coast on Sunday at 4:40 p.m. and he's averaged 114.75 in his last 4 games against the Eagles with scores of 150, 109, 122 and 78. So should have a day out against the Eagles, you'd think, going by recent form, in good form. And you can't discount him.
No, you cannot. In great form, and has a pretty good average against the Eagles as well, with that 150 last year. Onto the honourable mentions. We've got 2 here. First off is Clary Oliver, assuming he plays. He has been in hot form and has a decent average against the Doggies as well, of 123.75 in his last 4, with a 112, a 139, a 144, and a 100, making those games up. But obviously the question mark just kind of comes in with obviously having been injured. Does he take a lesser role? Does he get managed a little bit in game? Does the finger or thumb affect him a little bit there?
Hopefully it means he's going to be kicking more and handballing less.
Yes.
Imagine.
Yeah.
But as long as he's hitting targets, don't just bomber on the boot because it's going to be all for nothing. But just hit up a few zingers.
Unless he just kicks at 40 meters every time. Just bang at 40 meters. Doesn't matter about efficiency then. Yep.
Champion data just love that. Just get meters. Doesn't matter where it goes. Anyway, who else we got? Honourable mentions. Bailey Dale. So
in that same game.
Yeah. Oh, it is too. Yes. So the Ds, you've written down this nice little stat here. The Ds give away the most points to opposition kick-ins or kick-in players and the second most to gen defenders. So, bodes well in terms of like a favourable matchup.
Yes.
He's very much a pod, I think, still, Bailey Dale at this stage as well. So, yeah, you'd be jumping on him as a bit of even more so, a pod VC or C option. So, yeah, have a think about it.
So, have a think. Now, Damon, who are your selections this week for VC and C?
Well, I was going to go for Laird, but you've kind of scared me off him a little bit. But knowing Laird and his consistency, I'm going to stick by him with the VC. Treated me really, really well as he did you on the weekend. So he'll be my VC. For the C, it's a little bit tougher. Probably thinking I don't trust McRae yet. I'm thinking Oliver. I'm going to back him in, I reckon. Return to hot form. I think he's just going to be not as if he's missed any time, just back on the horse, back on the bike. Away you go, mate. What about you?
So
Who are you going for?
I think I'm going the same way. Laird VC. I don't trust Walsh enough.
No.
I don't. McRae's the other one that I'd consider.
Yeah.
It'll probably depend a little bit. It's going to depend on what Laird scores, because I actually don't think there's a heap of great options late in the round.
No. Yeah,
so
true.
I think I'd almost accept a lower score from Laird. If Laird went 120, 120 is probably my lowest that I'd accept.
Yeah, I'll be the same.
Yeah, like I know how we've sort of spoken about in recent weeks that we were increasing the average increasing the points that we'd expect, or increase the barrier, I guess. But I think this week I'm always going to go the opposite way and decrease the barrier, because I just don't think in my side there's enough historical averages that are favourable here. Lockie Neal potentially. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
Don't mind
it's hard.
Don't mind it. But yeah, I reckon that game is going to set everyone apart because of the number of guns that are in it. That game being Melbourne and the Bulldogs. So yeah, going to be interesting to see which way things fall. But let's move on, because we're joined by our special guest for the episode, and it is the current ranked number 6 coach overall in JP with his team, Ray Magoo. Alrighty, well, JP, thanks for joining us, mate. Fair to say you are in a super strong position, being only 112 points off top spot. How are your nerves at the moment with 5 rounds to go?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, really. You can delve right into it, look into everyone's stats, or I found myself turning off a little bit this week. Had a few players scored really badly and didn't want to watch it, so I went down to the local footy. I'm sure I'll watch them during the week at some stage if I need to make a trade, but yeah.
It's just a matter of like just doing your trade, switching off, and then seeing how they score afterwards, like after the fact. Like this,
yeah.
I'd be like, if I was in your position, I'm bad enough as it is. I'm ranked 3,000 odd, not even in any position to win, but I just can't help it. It's a habit. Like during a game being on, it's just like, Liam, you're probably the same. You're just checking scores. You're like, oh, they're having a shit start to the game, and they come good and right in the highs and lows.
Yeah, you check about 20 times a game. You check the scores.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Refresh.
Yeah, and sometimes you guys need to check after the game. Just don't worry too much about the little fluctuations in game. Just see what they end up on at the end.
And then scaling as well. So they scale.
Yeah,
there's nothing worse. Absolutely nothing worse. Just quickly as well. So JP, the initials, and I don't know if you've been compared to this before, but you remind me of I forget the actor's name, but Aaron Paul. Jesse Pinkman. Is it a bit of a reference there? I reckon you could pass for his brother. No relation?
Don't like that.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
Interview's over.
That's it. Tom Cruise or one of those.
Walk out.
Walk out.
Well, let's get it back on track on SuperCoach. So before we chat about, I guess, the 2022 season, in a little bit more detail, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of your history? How long you've been playing SuperCoach, and have you reached these sorts of heights before?
I've actually been playing since it was in the newspaper. You used to have to cut out the player and send it in an envelope, and then you get the weekly score at the end. Oh, so I won a weekly when I was about 15, I reckon. No idea what it was. But, been playing SuperCoach a long time.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, love it. Had probably 4 scores in the top 100, and then a few more in the top 1,000. A few blowouts.
Obviously, smashing it this season. And we always ask our guests to have a bit of a reflection, bit of a sliding doors moment, bit of a Damien Barrett type operator here. Just looking back at your trades to date. So which were your proudest trades? And conversely, were there any sliding doors moments for you, whether it was, holding onto a player for longer than what you wanted, or trading someone in, or trading someone out earlier than you wanted to, say, like a Nick Dacos, for example? A lot of us fall into that category.
Well, I've got Jack Sinclair. He came in about 3-4 weeks ago. James Sicily, I got in about round 4, basement price. Rory Laird came in a month ago and killing it.
Yep.
Got Darcy Cameron at 370.
Oh, wow.
And got rid
Jeez,
of him.
what a bargain.
Yeah, I've done pretty well there. Also started Prusy and Whips start of the year, which made things a lot easier. Bad trades, yeah, quite a few of them. I got Darcy Parish for half a game.
Oh, Liam.
yeah.
Liam can relate there.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, Timmy English for a concussion.
Oh,
Jake Bowie came in for very little. And Ollie Wines, I got him pretty early. He's hardly set the world on fire, but being consistent, but just stunk it up a few times lately.
Yep. Yeah. It's hard. Like it's one of those things you kind of need to look back at and do a bit of an audit on your season. But it might be a little bit easier for yourself or harder depending on the way things go. Because there's a lot hinging on where you're at the moment compared to us. But yeah, even I try and do it sort of in season as well. Like it's one of those things I probably shouldn't because I just end up kicking myself. But I'm in a bit of a conundrum at the moment. Like I've got 3 trades to go, and it's like, do I use one of my trades to then downgrade and fund the last 2, or go for a primo, or do I sort of sideways a guy and keep 2 trades? And it's trying to sort of work out injuries and COVID and every other factor, and yeah, it's hard to work out, isn't it?
Oh, it's hard. Yeah, I've only got 2 trades left, as you probably know. Got Paddy Cripps stinking it up. Ollie Wine's not doing much. Do you trade one of them to a Rowan Marshall and get Wines to a Tom Stewart next week, or what happens if Darcy goes down? We've got no trades left, then you're in a bit of strife. A couple of guys ahead of me have got those guys, and no trades.
So I guess on that, what strategy do you normally take? I don't know if you take it every year or if you mix it up. Do you try and reserve trades for injuries, or do you make those luxury trades? And I guess if you are making those luxury trades, do you have like a rule of, you don't make them until you've, I think some people have like, if you've got 2 weeks left of the season, you can make a luxury trade if you've got 2 trades left. That sort of, I guess, rule.
I actually made 2 luxury trades in round 2, so I got myself there.
Did a little bit earlier than the normal.
I went early. I nailed all the rookies, so I had to make a trade
that
somewhere.
helps.
Yeah, that's very different.
Yeah, no, they're very much luxury trades then. Yeah, that's good.
One was Maxi gone after I had Prusy and Whips already firing, so I thought I'd put the cash elsewhere.
Yeah, have you stuck with Witsy all the way through?
I've got Whips, yeah.
Yeah,
Whips
wow.
and Darcy now.
Yep, no, it's a good trade. Would have set you up nicely, like you said.
Yeah,
because a lot of people, I think we kind of did an order on both of our teams, and I think I've used about 9 trades maybe on the rucks in total. It's been crazy, insane. Like that includes Cherry and the like as well.
Hayes, Cherry, Hayes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those, which is it's been crazy. And just into,
I was answering more on that last question. Sorry. Yeah, I got down to 35 last year, and I just burnt all my trades. So I basically self-exploded and went from 200 to 2,000 in the last week.
Oh, wow.
Or 2. So I just made sure I'm conserving a few more trades now,
Yep.
especially with the guys ahead of me in a bit of strife.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
It's one of those things that I've tried to finesse myself. Like I've been playing since my high school days, since 2004, 2003 maybe. And every year I try and take out like, a bit of a takeaway point. And I think it was probably into my second season. It's like, don't trade as much. And it's just one of those things where I'm just so trigger happy that I always end up running out of trades like with a month to go. But I'm going all right so far. Not too bad.
We need a superannuation account. You've got a little bit you can't touch until you're around 18 or 19.
Yeah.
That's so true. And just off the back of sort of that question there, but and talking more so strategy with where you're at and where you're placed, obviously there's a few factors at play there. You mentioned there that, you have to factor in the number of trades that your competitors ahead of you have. In terms of trying to make up ground, I imagine it'd be pretty hard and a fine balancing act between, obviously you can try and choose different VCs and C options compared to what they've done, unless they pull a shifty and change it last second, as some of my league opponents do. But then on the trade front, like how hard is it trying to balance out the fact that, yeah, they may be running out of trades, and if you hold yours, it's a bit of a rope-a-dope type scenario, or do you try and go a bit aggressive? Like, how do you try and weigh that up, and is it just a week-to-week factor type thing, depending on who's out?
Pretty much so. I've got Heaney for cover on the bench, which helps. He covered Oliver.
Oh, that's good.
I just,
Nice.
I want to get rid of Cripps.
Yeah.
Do you do it?
Yeah, and when do you do it? Yeah.
You're a Carlton supporter. I'm a Carlton supporter. God love him.
Yep.
Started the season so well, but he ran past the ball last week and kicked it off the ground when he was 5 metres in the clear, and it's like, has he done his back again?
Yep.
Do we want to carry him? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit hard with Cripper, isn't it? Because, yeah, he looked like a different proposition the start of the year, and now he's just fallen away and lost his way.
Not kicking goals, and he's not kicking anymore.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
handballing out of the pack again, going back to his old ways of carrying the team.
Yeah. Of the guys in your team, without giving too much away, of course, you've said Cripps. So is Cripps would he be the number one candidate for yourself if you could spare a luxury trade in the gun?
Yeah.
Yep. Especially, I think, with the likes of like a Jack Steele, if you haven't got him, guys of that caliber, Mills as well. Good price considering what the output is compared to Cripper, of course.
I'm thinking a bit left field next week and moving someone into the midfield and trading Cripper out for Tommy Stewart.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Open up a DPP just if required.
Yep. Yeah, that'll definitely help.
Or maybe even Cripper down to a Marshall and wind up to or do I just hold tight? That's the conundrum.
That's right. Yeah. We won't give away as to whether or not you're going to do it or when you're going to do it, just in case any of the competitors are tuning in.
I won't know either, mate.
Yeah, that's right.
I just wing it.
Keep them guessing.
You won't know until you check the score at the end of the round. Yeah, it's probably a good way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, do you have any advice for those, I guess, out there that have finished their sides? What advice would you give to those if they're going for overall or if they're going for head-to-head leagues?
Just remember, it can get really ugly very late in the piece if you don't have players playing. I'm really short on the bench of players playing at the moment. Normally got 4 to 6. Now it's 2 to 3. You get an injury or something and you've burnt your trades. You're losing rank pretty quickly from an overall perspective. But you still got to be aggressive and go for it. So it's just a fine balance.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Very good advice.
I've got a kid in my street that got drafted to West Coast a month ago and played his first game, Jai Cully. I really want to get him in just because, I've kicked the footy with him in the past, but it's like, can I do it? Can I not do it? He looked like good.
Yeah, he played really well, didn't he? He's a bit of a tackling machine by the looks of it.
Big body player. He just likes a contest and he's hard at it, yeah.
Yeah. Liam and I both have a bit of a man crush for any guy that fits into that type. Purely SuperCoach, of course, but yeah, like a Jack Steele, or guys of that caliber, because it just provides such a high
good player to watch,
high floor, and good player to watch. So yeah, hopefully you can spare a trade, maybe potentially. See how you go. It might catapult you to the top.
If I need the cash, you could.
Yeah, imagine that. It'd be like it'd be the homecoming king.
Gets me a bit of cover for sure.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. We'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode. And goes without saying, but all the best for the run home. And you're in a very, very nice spot. And I'll be watching you we'll both be watching you very closely.
If I get over the line, mate, we'll be having a party somewhere and having a few beers. So.
Oh, very nice. Looking forward to it then. Beers on you, no doubt.
All good. Yeah.
Awesome. No worries. Well, thanks, JP. Cheers, mate, and all the best.
Thank you. Good luck.
Boys. Bye.
Well, yes, that was JP, the coach of Ray Magoo, who is in currently 6th spot overall. So best of luck to a great man, and hopefully he can come through with the goods and invite us to that piss up that he mentioned.
Yeah.
Can't recall if that was when we were recording or post. I think it was when we were recording. If not, people are going to be like, what are you on about? But yeah, so best of luck to him. But now it's time to move on to our group rankings and the SuperCoach Edge Cash League. And just checking in, it's going to be interesting, this one, because as we know, there's been a carryover champ for 11 weeks. So let's see if it changes. So first off, the highest scorer for round 19 is Tom with Bipolar Bears, and I'm pretty sure he's actually in my cash league.
I think
that
so.
name rings a bell. So Good stuff, Tom. He scored 2,619 with a round rank of 161. And his overall rank, he's inside the top 1K now with 882. But now, Liam, I'm going to throw this to you. There's some big news, isn't there?
There are some big news. Is it good news? Is it bad news?
Yeah. It's bad for us.
How will we know? How will we know? It's good for some people, bad for others. The carryover champ for 11 weeks in a row, Tyler with his team, Cream Pies, has been dethroned.
He's been what would you say? What would the analogy be?
He's been cream pied.
He himself has been cream pied. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Poor Tyler.
Sorry, Tyler. Damn it. It's come to an end for now anyway.
Yeah. We have a new
But who's he been replaced with?
He's been replaced by Tyler with his team, the Shep Screamers.
Oh, God.
What a great name.
Just as good.
Total score 42,067. His overall rank is 10th. He's 10th overall.
Wow.
Huge
Jeez,
jump.
awesome
It was 26th 1 round to go. 26th the last round. He's made up that 76 points to overtake Cream Pies. He's now, 200 points ahead of him or something. Yep. And he is going out, and he's gotten himself out to a pretty big lead. But he is hotly followed by John with his team, Markle Sparkle, who sits just 68 points behind him with a rank of 16. And he came in 14 spots from 30th overall as well. So they're close.
Yep.
It's getting tight. It's getting tight. Very tight.
Oh, tight, yeah.
Tight from Breaking Bad, which JP will know about because he's Jesse Pinkman. Those of you who have seen him on social and see the display picture, he's a dead ringer for Jesse Pinkman. If you're as much of a fan of Breaking Bad as me, my heart skipped a beat and I thought it was him. But anyway, yes, if you want to enter the SuperCoach Edge group, of which you can join now at any time, as you have been for all season. We can't shut the gates, unfortunately. They're just welded open. So the code is 142059. And let's have a quick run through of the winners in the SuperCoach Edge Crown League for Tier 3 Patreons. And the winners in round 18 were Jacqueline with Mid-Price Madness, Peter with his team Tankman77, Kyle with Northwind, Liam, don't know who that guy is, with his team Church of Parish, and Brett with his team The Sharp Shooters. So very nice there. Only one round to go this round before finals. It's so. Speaking of tight, that's not an exaggeration, is it?
No, not in the slightest. It's actually probably underselling it. So I'm just going to grab the league up.
I'm pretty sure just whilst you're doing that, it's a must win for like myself.
Pretty much everyone.
But everyone, from second down to what?
Yeah. So the only person that's safely in the top in the finals is Bruce with his team Shuin, who is in first. He's got 36 points. Then from second, he's on 32 points. Maddie with his team Orion, 32 to Brett and the Sharpshooters, 32 to myself. So I'm in fourth spot with my team Church of Parish. 32 points for Kyle with his team Northwind. So that's the top five. Then you sit into sixth spot with 28 points against Damon. 28 points for Scott Arthur with his team Black and White. 28 points for Lyle with his team Lyle Stars. 28 points in ninth for Jacqueline with her team Mid-Price Madness. And unfortunately, Peter sits in 10th spot with just 24 points. And he's probably the only one that's 100% out of contention.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it's going to come down to obviously who wins, but also because it is ranked on points scored overall or virtually overall ranking, that's going to separate, I think, as to who makes and misses the finals. And it is a top five finals set up with the 10-man league there. So, yeah, it's going to be hotly contested this weekend, and I'm hoping I can come away with a win because I do need a win in order to get into finals. So, see how we go there. But with that, let's just read out some of our socials as to where our listeners and viewers can find us.
Yes, on YouTube, search SuperCoach Edge, and don't forget to like and subscribe and watch the vodcast there. On Twitter, you'll find us at @SuperCoach_Edge, Damon at DamonJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95, Facebook and Insta, search SuperCoach Edge, and you will find us there.
Yes, very nice. Well, that's it. That's the end of this episode. So best of luck to those of you out there gunning for SuperCoach finals, gunning for the top spot overall, like JP or Tyler or everyone else out there that's absolutely killing it at the moment. But for us, Liam, let's just try and win because I think for my cash league, if I get a win, I'll be able to make finals. Same with our SuperCoach Edge cash league. So if I get knocked out, I think you're one ahead of me, aren't you?
Sure, ahead of you, yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm the same. I'm on one. I'm on the one. I've got one win on top of you.
Yeah. So at least one of us can make it in that league. We got to represent in our own SuperCoach Edge league.
I reckon we could both make it. It's just it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be real tight.
Yep. Tight. So with that, we'll catch you next week, same time, same place, and hopefully with better fortunes. We'll see you then.
Yes. Thanks. Good luck, guys.